Okay.
Am I too far
LinkedIn is
away
giving
from the
me
camera? Do you
a
think I should be closer to the camera? Is that
caution.
better?
No, you're fine. You're
Okay.
fine. I like it where you can see like this part and up. Like I can't stand when people's like faces like this. Can you guys see me? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live. I hope you can see and hear me very well. The weather is kind of bad out here, so I just bear with me. But I'm Allegra Jackson, the Marketing Medulla, and I am a business coach, marketing strategist, entrepreneur of many, many, many years. Something just happened. Okay. And what I love about what I do is I empower women entrepreneurs, making sure that you have a business plan in place, making sure that you have am I going out? Emma, just let me know. Marketing strategies in place and making sure you have access to funding resources. Now, that encompasses a bunch of different things. So, I do have qualifiers, I do coaching programs as well as 101s. And I have a business mastery membership that I would love to invite you all to. Now, today we're going to be talking about, like we always do, you're not broke, just blocked. We covered a lot of things last week, and we're going to continue a little bit on that topic. And some of the things that we covered, some of the things that we covered really steered on embarrassment and shame around, what we feel. And so we're going to be talking about that today. I'm going to also be adding something that I feel is important, which is what I consider the debt of love. And I'm going to pass this over to Emma so she can introduce herself, and then we'll get into the conversation. Emma, you have the mic. I think you're off mic.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I've just turned on my microphone. So yeah, my name is Emma Lyons, and what I do, it kind of really aligns with what Allegra does really well, because I work with mostly female entrepreneurs, and I help them with the kind of inner blocks to success that we have and that we're going to explore today. And I love this idea of talking about shame, because shame is so taboo. People don't want to talk about it, but it is the root of all evil, in terms of all the ways we sabotage ourselves. And shame is such, like, it's the lowest vibration. And I don't say that in any kind of judgy way, because I hung out quite a lot in shame myself. But when you're in shame, for whatever reason, when you're making yourself wrong, or when you're feeling all that guilt and punishing yourself, it's really, really hard to move forward in your life and in your business and make that money. So all these things really come together. So I love that we're talking about this, and that we're talking about the connection with love, because obviously if you're shamed, if you're carrying shame and guilt, you're not going to let that love in. And money, after all, it's just a representation of that. It's just a representation of how we give and share, and share appreciation. So that's basically what money is. And I think there's a lot of shame around money. There's a lot of shame that people carry around themselves. And that's what we need to lift if we're really serious about empowering ourselves and, thriving in business and sharing our gifts with the world, really. Hmm. I seem to have lost you, Allegra. Are you there, Allegra? Allegra? You've frozen. Oh no. Oh, there you are. You're back. We lost you for a second there, I think.
Sorry, everyone. It's raining really bad out here in Atlanta, and the weather is affecting the internet, and it's already bad enough with the Wi-Fi. So just bear with us. If I go out, I will come back in. And Emma, I heard you talk about that shame, and I just want to second that. You know, one thing I said to you, Emma, before we got on the live was that I really want to focus a lot about that. We talked about it a little bit last week. Hey, Vernell, welcome. Let us know you all are listening. If you're listening, drop your heart in the comments for us. When it comes down to this conversation, embarrassment, shame, we talked about these things last week. And as women in business, women entrepreneurs, and I mean, I think we talk about this affecting us more than anything. That is something I feel like we embody differently than men. And I believe that that's why business for us is different. And when you have, and I want you to kind of talk about what that even means, because some people don't even recognize their differences. Like, what does it mean how I'm feeling right now? Is this shame? Is it embarrassment? So sometimes we don't even know how to describe what the feeling is. But then once you actually understand like where you're at with your emotions, right? Then you can see how much control you have over it. And one thing I said was that as women, we in business, we have to separate our emotions from the business. And that's just what it is. And I think a lot of times I get a pushback for that, and rightfully so, because as women, we are very new in entrepreneurial spaces. I was just talking to Emma real quick. I think when we first started having these conversations, when I first met Emma on the live with TC, I was looking up more about women and money. And I found that our relationship with money is just not, it hasn't been curated. Like we've never really been introduced properly. We've had bad situations where literally more people had control over money than we did, and we had to just take advice from our husbands or the men, because we're talking about culture. And there are still cultures where men handle the pocketbook. And so I really want to look at that emotion behind it, because if you don't feel like you have control over something, that feeling of defeat, it really does put you in a low, like you said, low vibration, but you're completely emotional. And that's really what stops people, I believe, from moving forward. When we talked about yesterday, we talked about different levels of grief, and that came into emotion, and sometimes we get really stuck in that thing. But as women, we tend to stay there sometimes. And so I want to just bring that up to the forefront, because I think if we can take a more logical approach to how we deal with shame and embarrassment and understand what it is, then we wouldn't feel so obligated to just let our emotions take over rather than us take over our emotions. So that's what I wanted to start with. Emma, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think a lot of women like generally we're much more kind of in tune with our emotions, much more emotional. I think that's kind of a general fact for most people. Like the feminine energy is more emotional, and if you're a woman, you may have more feminine energy than masculine energy, and that's all about emotions. And the thing is, a lot of us struggle with emotional regulation, and that can mean when negative feelings come up like shame and guilt and all that, we don't know, we struggle with how to work with them, how to balance them out, how to shift the focus onto more positive things. Now, the masculine energy, um, which most men, but not all men, we all have masculine and feminine energy, by the way. And masculine energy is more kind of logical, more. So, this is why men generally who are dominant in their masculine energy tend to have less problems with their emotional body because they're more in their kind of logic mind. And that brings with it its own problems, because sometimes men will tend to push down their emotions more, not express their emotions, and that leads to its own set of problems. But for women, for a lot of women, and the kind of feminine energy, a lot of the time I see with women and also with myself, is this idea of kind of emotions kind of ruling you rather than you being in charge of your emotions. So emotional regulation is a problem, and that can mean you kind of get pulled into these negative spaces, which make it very difficult for you to change your financial story and create abundance in your life if you're stuck in that guilt and shame cycle. And obviously, the guilt and shame, it's self-perpetuating. It's a vicious cycle. So when you're feeling the guilt and the shame, you know, you prove it. You prove to yourself, I'm not good enough, and then something happens, and it proves that, and it reinforces that. It becomes this reinforcing, self-perpetuating cycle. So that's why it's so important, kind of, to work with these things and to find a strategy to deal with them sooner rather than later and leaving them, because they can really derail your progress, not only in your business, but also, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, in terms of love, because, I've noticed that when people are blocked in their money, we're talking about you're not broke, just blocked. People people also have that struggle in other areas because really money blocks are about receiving. And if you're not receiving money, what else are you not receiving? An obvious one is love. Um, not most of us are not receiving all the love that we could be receiving. We block ourselves there, and that's because of the shame and the guilt and those unaddressed emotions, and that's stuff that we haven't dealt with, or that we don't want to feel, that we suppress, or that we just let go, that's out of control. And it's so important to deal with these things in order for us to be successful, not only in business, not only with money, but in your whole life.
I value everything you're saying because one thing that came up for me when I said earlier, what does it look like, right? Because people have to define that for themselves. And, this is an open space. So if you're listening and you feel like there has been situations that you've experienced, whether shame or guilt around money, or receiving is what Emma talks about, then, drop it, because there are so many people that need to hear that they're not alone. I, for one, told my story when I was younger, and I was just, kind of thrown off about money because it was like there was an action step that showed me that, I had to have a behavior towards money. And otherwise I would miss out on it. And with that, throughout my life, I started to realize how that one little incident in my childhood really catapulted so many different levels of maybe embarrassment or shame or guilt throughout the time that I would, do any type of business. I started my first business in 2007 officially. 2004, I was like, and a lot of people were like, I want to make 6 figures in a year. I'm like, listen, it took me from 2004 to 2007 to really make a decision. Okay. It wasn't really about the business building. It was like, do I want to commit to this? So, for those years, I had to make a decision. And throughout that time, like Emma's talking about, I want to say this, I had to learn how to love myself enough to pour into me, to get the right mentors, to get the right support, to get the right coaching, so that I could actually evolve in this place of mindset. Because when you said that it is a lack of love, it really is. It's a lack of, so, and I don't want to say it because I had a realization in my healing, Emma, where it hit me and I was like, I don't love myself enough. It just hit me. It just hit me. It wasn't that I didn't feel like I didn't love myself. It was just, I didn't realize what I was defining love as. Okay. And so for me, what I defined love as for a very long time was giving myself and never getting anything back. That's how I defined love. Like, I literally was giving of myself to everyone that I loved. But when it came to myself, I was not doing what I needed to do for me. And so when I talked about that debt of love earlier, Emma, I was saying, in my belief, in my faith, we have Jesus Christ that died on the cross for our sins. So we have a debt of love that we have to show, not just to other people, but to ourselves. And so for me, when I think about how God created me and the fact that I'm not open to receiving love, it's literally going to cause a block, which I'm not going to be able to gain on anything in my purpose, whether it's having, the life that I want, the relationships that I want, the job that I want, right? Because that block is going to be there because there's no opening, because there's a lack of love. And I had to come to that realization through a lot of challenges that I had, because we are taught as women to give of ourselves, to other people before we take care of ourselves. I think I saw a reel where J-Lo was talking about it. And because we were talking about culture, Emma, they said that, and she was talking about her culture, Latinas, right? The Latino culture, where you have a lot of women who are taught to just do everything, goes to the children, the family, the husband, and then you take care of yourself, right? Whether it's cooking, cleaning, whatever. And I think that really there has to be some level of reversal in our mindset around what that looks like, because we talk about the example all the time. Loving yourself means that you're making yourself a priority, meaning that whenever it comes to any thing that you need to be educated on, you get your education. Wherever you need to level up and get your mindset together, you get the help and support you need. But it's so interesting that I find that, especially when it comes to mompreneurs, is that we will actually do things for our family. Like I was talking to one of my clients, and I'll just give this an example because I want to be very clear. Talking to one of my clients, and she literally was saying how she paid all this money to help her child with something. Okay, I'm not going to say what it was, but it was like very interesting because I was like, but you needed that money for what you were doing, and now that you actually took care of your child, now you're out of pocket, but your child is an adult. So because she was a mom, regardless of the age of her child, she felt like she always had to give. And whenever I said, well, what would it look like if you were to actually put yourself first and let the adults take care of themselves because you raised your children? And she was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, like, I love my kids and I can imagine myself, like not doing it. And it's, so I wanted to use that because it wasn't anything dire where she had to actually come out of pocket, but we do that a lot, and we do that a lot with money. And we use that as a way to say, oh, well, now I can't pour into myself because I had to pay for this, or I had to do that for someone else. And so that to me reminds me of when I lacked love for myself, because how can I support anyone else? How can I just give something to someone that I have limitations on, or limited, whatever money resources, and I'm just giving it away rather than working on me, right? And do what I need to do first so I can pour out of a full cup. That's just what I was experiencing. And it came from just everything. It came from my upbringing. It came from my experiences in the workplace, because every single time I experienced that guilt or that shame around, getting money, having money taken away from me, or lack of money, that I actually beat myself up even more. And I say, yeah, this is why I'm here. This is why, this is not working out for me. Instead of having a different mindset around it, we're just saying anything is possible. There are no limitations, and really thinking more outside of the box. I was more limiting myself because I didn't know how to love myself. So with all that being said, I'll stop there. And Emma, what do you think about that? If women are experiencing that and they're just, just pretty much stuck, which is where I was.
Well, I don't think that you're unique. I think a lot of women really struggle with that, struggle with the idea of receiving. And like you said, we're kind of programmed to look after everyone else before we look after ourselves. That's the kind of codependent culture that women are kind of trained into, and that we kind of naturally want to, give to others. But a lot of women really struggle to receive. And a lot of women really struggle to put themselves out there and ask for things, and ask for a raise, ask for more money, ask for another job, that promotion. Men are better at that. And women also suffer more with imposter syndrome, and, people of color as well, because of that cultural legacy, and because of the way that we're brought up, we're brought up to be more emotional. I think we're naturally more emotional, but that's really encouraged in us. And the idea of kind of nurturing and looking after other people. And, that can often mean neglect of the self. When we put other people first, we neglect our own needs. And
Mm-hmm.
that somehow is allowable, because we feel like we need to be looking after other people, because deep down inside there's a feeling that I'm not really good enough. I have to prove my worth by looking after the other people, or showing that I can look after these other people. So that's really where it comes from. It comes from a place of lack, because it's really lovely to give, but the best time to give is when you are in that overflowing space. And that, unfortunately, is not where a lot of women are. They're kind of giving from the empty cup, or from the kind of just a few drops left. And then you can end up resenting the people that you're giving to, because it's leaving you with nothing. So that can create more shame and more guilt. And, it's like it doesn't lead to a happy place. It doesn't lead to abundance. So I think it's I think that this call, this is all about kind of a call to action to step up and empower yourself so that you can receive from that full place and so that you can give from that good that full place as well. And giving and receiving are actually two sides of the same coin, and that's something that a lot of people miss. If you don't give, then you've got nothing to receive, and vice versa. If you don't receive, you got nothing to give. So they really feed each other. And if you're just doing one, you are going to be out of balance, and you're going to be suffering, emotionally, definitely, but more than likely also in other ways. So it's so important that we address that. And the cool thing is that we get to address that by looking at our stuff. That's something that's totally within your power. You don't have to go outside yourself or change anyone else. You just need to do the work, do the inner work to let in what's already there waiting for you.
That is so powerful. And Emma, while you're speaking, I'm just thinking, if you are a woman experiencing this, because I describe things in my personal experiences that I had to go through. And if you say I'm not unique and other people are experiencing that was a very painful time for me. Like when I actually had that moment of like, you don't love yourself, Allegra. Like you don't love
Yeah.
yourself enough. You're not actually giving to yourself what you deserve. I had to pep talk myself, right? I had to actually have that talk with myself and say what was actually going on and just be honest about it. And if someone experiencing that, right? Because you said, no judgment, right? We were talking about that earlier. No judgment. Like everyone is going to have a moment. Can someone really balance that as a mom, as a wife, as a woman, with the emotions, with the fact that we've had, and I know the answer to this, but I gotta ask, with the emotions that we have, right? Are we able to balance that with logic and be able to accomplish this concept of really having a equal balance to our lives? Because I noticed that, especially with women and how long we've been emotionally in this position of just giving and giving and giving and giving, right? What does it take for someone to have more of a balance?
Well, you've got to, I mean, your question has the answer inside it, because you've got to feel worthy of receiving. And, this is the very human wound that pretty much everyone on the planet has. We're kind of born with this, or we're not born with it. We're kind of conditioned into this idea that there's something wrong with us, that I'm not worthy somehow. And that is like prevalent in Western society, not in all cultures. Like if you go to some places in the East, that's a total alien idea. But I think in Western societies, that idea that there's something wrong with me, that I'm deficient in some way, that is a wound that pretty much all of us have, and that will that will stop the flow of life, into your life. Not just the flow of money, the flow of love, the flow of good things into your life, because if you don't feel worthy of it, you're not going to let it in on some level. And, if we really
Mhm.
felt worthy, if we really, really felt worthy, we wouldn't be treating people badly. There would be none of this kind of murder and genocide and, all of the things that we see in our world today. If people really loved themselves and felt secure in themselves, they would also, share that love. They wouldn't feel threatened by other people. So it's that victimhood comes from a place that there's something wrong with me and I'm vulnerable to attack. So I always say that, the strongest hand requires the lightest touch, because when you are really strong and you really believe in what you're saying, you don't need to push other people to believe you. You stand firm in that. You don't need to beat other people up so that they believe you. You are embodying that. But it's when you see people, hurting other people and pushing them, trying to get them to agree with them, that's when there's something out of alignment there. Part of them doesn't fully believe it themselves. If you have to convince other people in order to feel confident, something's out of whack, because that confidence needs to come 100% from you first, not from the outside first. It comes from the inside first. And I think we,
That is
as a
so
society, we're taught to get things from the outside, not to get things from the inside, and that is totally backwards.
that is so good, Emma. It's so good because it made me think of three people in my head, and I've thought about myself too, right? Like when you said this is not uncommon for us in Western society, being like just not having that full embodiment of love. That didn't really dawn on me until you said that, because it's true. And receiving, if you're talking about money being an item, because that's what it is, it's an item. We described that last week. When you're open to receiving things like love for yourself, I did notice that when you start like actually like telling yourself, I deserve this. I deserve that love. I deserve that affection. I deserve that relationship, right? I think that it just and also being able to kind of dissect where you need to be in order to receive, because there were so many people in my life and so many things in my life that kept me blocked. Like kept me blocked. And I was like, every time I would go to a place of like, oh, I need to receive and heal, and I'm trying to receive that love for myself, then I got this other thing on the other side of me that's bringing me back to the trauma of, no, I don't deserve the love. Right. And that could be anything. And when you said that people have to convince you, and so that it's because they don't believe it themselves, I've literally, and this is, I think for me, it's been such a growing, healing process, right? Like I don't feel like I'm ever really there. Like I feel like I'm just always learning something. And I really I had a couple of incidences that happened over the last couple of years, family, friends, and it just dawned on me that the arguments and the drama and that came out of whatever happened, because some of those relationships I had to break out of because it was so much friction. Okay. And when you get to a place where you start to try and discover that love for yourself, right, and say, okay, I am open to receiving, there's going to be some type of kickback. At least for me, it was. And I remember talking to friends and family and this whole new idea of like, okay, I have not been doing what I need to do for me. And so your mindset changes, your direction and what you're doing changes. And what happens is people will not understand that. But at the same time, I remember conversations where they'd be like, well, why don't you agree with me? Why don't you see my side of it? And I'll be like, well, just don't. Like, we can agree to disagree. And I've done that where I'm like, no, like you have to hear what I'm saying. And when you said that people that are very in tune with themselves, love themselves, and embrace that no matter what, they're not really fazed by what other people are doing, saying, and other things. Like they're really focused on themselves and what they need to do for themselves. And so that identity of love for me, when I said the debt of love, I was really talking about a true, genuine love that involves compassion, patience, right? Making sure that you're really diligent about working on yourself. And for me, I felt that this idea, when you said that, I'm like, wow, like there were conversations and arguments that did not even need to be in. I didn't even have to respond. Literally, that brought up emotions for me that put me back in my block state. So I just wanted to emphasize that, because when you were talking, I'm like, that's how I stayed blocked. It wasn't because I wasn't working on myself. It was just that I was in situations that really put me back where I was before I tried to, get out of it. So with all that being said, Emma, because there are people, and I noticed that Facebook is not connecting, so we'll have to share this to Facebook afterwards. But there's a thing where I think that when you said it about we're kind of beating ourselves up about it because we feel shameful around it. That's kind of what I kept in my book. Every time I went back to that feeling, I was like, man, I feel bad again. So the only thing I would end with is, how does someone because everybody's different. I don't know. For me, it was very difficult to love myself because I didn't know what that looked like. And I had to start from within and I had to really work
Mhm.
on that, right?
Yeah.
But for someone who's like, I'm working on it and I keep going back in that place of like, you know, I don't know why I can't break it. I don't know why I can't break this cycle. Um, do you say keep trying? Do you say, get a system in place? Like, what do people need to do?
Well, I mean, it can be easier when you have someone helping you because, I've noticed that um sometimes, when you're in that cycle, you can't see the wood from the trees. So, what I would always recommend is to invest in yourself, invest in that personal development and invest in getting the support because that is kind of passing on the message that I'm worth it, that I'm worth it, worthy of investing in myself. So, rather than trying to do it on your own, which is a very lonely path, and you're also saying, I don't really deserve that's the coming from that scarcity place. I don't really deserve it. I don't have the money, So, you're reinforcing all those things. So find support. That's what I would say. Don't try to do it on your own. We're not supposed to do it on our own. There are how many billion people on the planet. You're not here on your own. I know it might seem when you're in your own head that you're the only one going through what it is that you're going through, but I can tell you that you are definitely not alone. Millions of people are out there struggling in a similar way, and they have got through it and they have gotten support. They have recognized, and acknowledged that I'm worthy of support. I'm going to get the support I need, and that in itself increases your self-esteem. So then the second thing I would say is to start doing things for yourself. And I'm not just talking about, there's a lot of this stuff online about, have a bubble bath, look after yourself, have that cookie, you know, that's not the type of self-care and support that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the deeper stuff. Although that stuff is good, if you're just doing that, it's not going to go deep enough. So, investing in yourself, starting rituals, that you do every day, that you do every morning to start your day, to set that intention for yourself. Because a lot of people go through life feeling like a failure, and it's because they haven't set any goals. And if you haven't set any goals, then, of course you're going to fail because you haven't set any goals. You're not going anywhere. And I think a lot of us end up in that boat. I know I certainly did. So make sure that you're setting goals, because really self-esteem, it comes from doing hard things. And if you're protecting yourself from doing hard things, of course you're not going to have high self-esteem. This is why, running marathons and doing difficult things and doing challenging yoga poses, that all develops your self-esteem. And that ties into your self-worth, that because their self-worth and the self-esteem, they're really connected. Self-esteem is how important you feel that you are and how valuable you feel you are, and self-worth is kind of even deeper. It's just the value that you have for being human. So it's not about your achievements, the things that you do. It's about who you are, that you're valuable just for being human. And lots of people struggle with both. And really, find a therapist, find someone to help you, get support groups, reach out to me, but get help. Don't try to do it on your own. That's really the message that I would love to convey here, because when you try to do it on your own, you're just reinforcing all those negative messages that maybe you've been telling yourself all your life, that you're not worthy. Start changing that script and acting accordingly.
That's beautiful. I mean, I threw that out there because it's what came to mind, and I was just thinking, there are a lot of people that struggle, and I mean, it's an everyday struggle. It's not like you just magically come up one day and it's just all gone away. So I love that you say work with someone, because all through my challenges, I had to find someone to really help me unblock. And being blocked, man, this can go really deep, y'all. But being blocked is really it really lowers your confidence. And I had to be around someone that could build that back up. And so when you said, Emma, reach out to someone, get the support you need, like, I mean, when I think about what you do, it's not even like, I looked at your name, Money Block Alchemist. I love it. But when we talk about money blocks, like, it's when you describe it, Emma, people are chasing after money. And so they're attracted. They're like, oh yeah, I got to get rid of my money block, right? So I can get more money. But you just broke it down. Like, we just need to increase our level of receiving love, and having support in doing that not only enhances your bank account, right? Because first of all, I love Emma. So when you work with Emma, I can imagine what that's going to do for you, because there's such a level of confidence and support from her own story. That's what I love so much about you, Emma, because you literally have been through it. So you're like, y'all, don't worry about it. Like, I got you. But I think it's such a thing that we as women have to start working on, like powerfully working on, y'all. There's just so much happening in the world of business. There's so much happening with women entrepreneurs. And these are the times where in our world, you can be innovative. And as a woman, if you're not emotionally stable or sound, it can ruin your opportunity to really even give your family that generational wealth, because you can't get your emotions together, because you don't want to pour into yourself first and love yourself enough. That is well deserving for you and for the people you love. And so I want to just say, with encouragement as a business coach to y'all, because, you can't come to me with money blocks. It's just not going to work. You got to go to Emma and see what it is that is happening in your mind first, what it is that is embodying. I was looking at a reel and they were talking about how the discomfort of things that you're feeling, like anxiety and shame or whatever, it's actually built. You can feel it in your body. You can feel it like on your back, on your neck. Like, there's different ways that your body is reacting to the things that you're feeling when you're feeling it, whether it's shame or embarrassment or guilt. So I really want to honor that, to really be well for y'all as women who give birth to society. All right. We have to be okay. So Emma, how do they connect with you and get into your space so that they can start working on this process?
Well, reach out to me on social media. I'm also going to drop my link here. And I would say have a conversation with me. I was working with someone the other day, Dr. Jackie, actually. She won't mind me saying that because she knows.
I love Dr. Jackie.
Dr. Jackie, yeah, she had some challenges around, making sales. She was holding herself back with regards to that, and she had the perfect pitch and everything. I'm telling you guys, in like 15 minutes conversation, we had totally shifted that, and she was feeling way more confident about her pitch. Because what I've noticed is that it's not about what you say, it's about the energy that you bring to it. And she had a conflict there. She was afraid of coming off salesy, she was afraid of making her offer what people would think. And even though she had spent a ton of money on these great programs that help with this and that, she wasn't getting any results from social media. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be working with Dr. Jackie. We're going to do some rooms together here on LinkedIn and on Clubhouse as well. And I'm really excited to see what changes for now that she's ready to make these offers more boldly, because she really has been holding back. And I can recognize it because I've been there myself. So we're all holding back because we're all capable of so much. And no matter how successful you are, even you, Allegra, there's another level there for you. So, we are the masters of limitation. I call them money blocks, but that's only so that people kind of will understand. It's the money is the outcome, but it's really about so much more than that, because it's the energy of receiving. And you deserve to receive, but it doesn't matter if I say that. You've got to believe that for yourself and follow through with that action by, investing your time and energy and effort and money into resolving that for yourself. Because, all these conversations, as great as you are, they're not going to change anything for you unless you act on them. I'm wondering, did you see, Allegra? Did you see I did a session with Soda on a live the other day, so you can go back and did you watch that?
I watched some of it, but I couldn't finish it. But I did see
Yeah, it was
y'all pop
quite we're
up.
gonna have to edit it so that people can see, 'cause literally these things happen, 15, 20 minutes. So, it doesn't need to take a long time. And then obviously, there'll be more stuff that comes up. So it's not like you're ever finished. There's always another level, and that's the beauty of working. That's why I work with people over time. I have a 5-week program and I work with people over 90 days, because the magic comes when you remove these blocks and then you act from that place. You act from that new place, and that's when I've seen miracles happening, because you can do all the running around and all the chasing the money, but if you've got these inner blocks, none of that's going to work. And also, if you just do all the inner work and la la la, and you never act on it, you're never going to see the results. It's got to be both together. And that's what I mean. I worked with an artist recently. I'll come back and tell you about Dr. Jackie, or she'll come back and tell you about what ships for her. But I can tell you, I worked with an artist, and very first session together, we released a ton of stuff. And then we both got this download that he needed to phone a woman, and he was like, "Yeah, I know exactly who that is." He was scared to make that phone call, but he helped him shift that, and he agreed to do it. And he did it straight after the session. And let me tell you, from that one phone call, he sold an art piece worth thousands of pounds. He's in the UK. And also he got an art exhibition, in central London. So this is the power of taking that aligned action and going on that journey, because it's not enough to just follow Allegra's program if you've got these inner blocks and you're not going to act on it, or you're not going to act in an aligned manner. And it's not enough to just do all this energy work or releasing things if you never follow Allegra's strategy to get you the results. They've got to go hand in hand. You've got to make yourself visible as well. So that's why I think it's so important to do both, and that's why I think it works so well doing these calls with Allegra, because we're moving, we're calling for the same thing, but kind of coming to it from totally different avenues. I think, Allegra, have you frozen? I cannot see Allegra. Allegra, come back to us, Allegra. And I'm going to go to, hopefully Allegra will come back to us. Let me see. I'm just going to check here in the chat here. No, we're on LinkedIn. We don't seem to be on Facebook right now, but I can see Vernell, you're there. Hey, Vernell. And yeah, if anyone else is listening, feel free to comment. Let us know. If you're watching the replay, drop a hashtag replay down below. I would love to see that. And if you have questions, get involved in the conversation, and let us know. We would love to hear. Allegra, let's see. Am I still? I wonder if it's on my side. If the problem is on my side, let me see what's happening over on LinkedIn.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. The internet kicked me out. Were you done, Emma? I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt what you were
Yeah.
saying.
I am done.
All right, we're gonna get rid of these internet connections because they suck. But thank you, Emma. I appreciate all that you say, and I'm gonna listen to the replay and hear that last part too. But I am gonna also watch that replay of you and Holly, and I'm glad that you mentioned Dr. Jackie. These are real people in our community, and these are in conversation with Dr. Jackie well before she started win conversations in the what we call the Win Chateau. And I remember one of those questions that I asked Dr. Jackie, which was like, why aren't you closing the sale? So when you mentioned that, Emma, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Because, in a basic business principle, in a basic business, like a pitch or a presentation, you always have to close it. You always have to have something at the end of that pitch that gives them the option to enter, buy, purchase, right? That's the point of it all, really, when you get to it, because now you get to do the exchange. And what I find is that, Emma, we do love to just show up and be very committed to a process. But that shame, that guilt, and that embarrassment will always, always win in the end if we don't work. on these
And
roadblocks.
I wanna say one more thing as well. This idea about being honorable and that sales aren't honorable and that's kinda sleazy, that was what was going on with Dr. Jackie, and I think that's not unique to her. This idea that sales are sleazy or gross, um, that can really block you from making sales, and really it's not even about sales, like, sales is a kinda dirty word, it's about offering your services to people who need it. So, like Dr. Jackie, for example, and I've seen this with other people that I've worked with, like one lady, she's an ADHD coach, and she had the same problem, she couldn't make the offers, and she was actually depriving people of, her services that help people, to work with their ADHD and be successful. And like Dr. Jackie, she was putting out all this amazing content and not getting anywhere. And yeah, Dr. Jackie is very service led, but that was kind of cheating both herself and her potential clients from hearing about her offers and how she can help them, improve their relationships, which is a huge, huge thing area of life. And that's why I'm excited about doing these rooms with Dr. Jackie, because we're going to be talking about, blocks to money and love, because they are, like we've just touched on today, they're very, very connected.
That's going to be so, so good. All right. Well, listen, I'm definitely going to tune in for that. Emma, we're going to drop some links after this live so that you all can really experience what Emma has coming up. I always say, there are great programs that you can, get into and take part in, but I literally vet people. I make sure that, they're viable candidates that I highly recommend. Emma is someone I highly recommend. I've never been a part of Emma's program, but just from being in these conversations with Emma, hearing testimonials from other people, I already know she is the bomb.com, right? Like, she is the truth. So when you have opportunities to get access, and something you said, Emma, that really I want to kind of end with, because sales is just a conversation. It's not bad. It is not, yeah, you got the car salesman type attitude back in the day. But if you have evolved with the way the market is, the way the economy has changed, the way that generations are now, we really do not sell the same way. There are just certain levels to it that you have to understand. But if you're blocked, you're not even going to want to receive it. You're not even going to want to hear anyone say, well, let me teach you how to make sales a conversation. And I've done that. And I'm like, well, let me just tell you what I just don't want to sell. I just don't want to, so I really want anyone who feels like that. If you, and this is the assignment today, okay? If you feel like you are not getting to the sell, which is the point, okay? Because otherwise, why would you go through all this hard work? Why would you build a business, go through all of the education, go through all spending, not even spending, you're investing money into your business, but it becomes a liability if you don't make the sale. So make sure you get with Emma so that you can get that part together. Because if you decide in your mind, based on what Emma does and unblocks those things for you, when you make a decision on how you want to show up and what kind of sales conversations you want to have to give people access to you. Because you're right, Emma, how unfair is it that I have all this genius, all this opportunity to change your life, but I'm not telling you how to get into my space? And unfortunately, this is the really sad part about it that I really want us to think about. There are people that are destined and designated for us. Like, there are people that literally are like waiting for Emma to show up in their lives. They're waiting for an Allegra to show up in their lives. And we talk about this sometimes too, but we don't really embrace it and embody it like it's a real thing. People are in pain. They are out there right now, like crying in their pillows saying, oh my God, why am I stuck? Why am I blocked? Why am I broke? They think they're broke, but they're just blocked. And because we show up, we give you the option to get into our spaces. Imagine if we never said, hey, sign up for this program, get into the boot camp, download this resource. Imagine if we just talked all day and you just walked away with nothing. That means that you would never have your opportunity to change and to be a better person yourself. So we would never do that to you. And so we don't want you to do that to anyone else. So get with Emma if you have blocks in your sales, if you're not closing sales, if not every day, every other day. get with Emma this week. And I want to hear who got with you this week, Emma. If anyone from the community reaches out to you, I want to hear about that. And then we'll talk about similar things next week because I want to give honor words. But anything else that you want to leave with us, Emma, before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna drop my link here once I get to the LinkedIn. But if you're just listening, it's bit.ly/thrive from within. So that's just have a conversation with me. And I would say, really, if you're feeling blocked and stuck, um, do something. Make that commitment to do something about it today because these things don't go away on their own. I mean, I know from personal experience, and they tend to self-perpetuate. So you've got to make a decision that you're going to change it, and then take action from that place, and get help. If I'm not your person, find someone else, but do something about it because these things don't go away on their own. They get worse, actually. So that's what I would say. Those are my final thoughts, and you've got nothing to lose but your own, all the things, all the abundance, all the people. Like you said, I love what you said there about, you've got people waiting for you, and I think you are the answer to people's prayers. There are people out there praying for what it is that you're offering, whether it be a product or a service, and you are depriving them of the answer to the prayers by hiding and not making your offer. So I'm going to leave you guys with that.
Wow, that's pretty deep. Thank you, Emma. All right, well, let's get out of here. We will see you all next week. Your homework is to reach out to Emma to uncover those books. And if you have any questions, if you have any shares, maybe you listened and watched the last live that we did and it changed your life in some way, shape, or form, let us know. We get encouraged by your stories. And we will be doing this live again next week. So just tune in. It is already scheduled here on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. And then in the next month in December, if we bring the series back, or maybe we may change it to a new topic of a series, but I think this is really like something we probably want to dig into. But just make sure that you all are tuned into us and you follow us on these social media platforms. Here on LinkedIn, if you're here, Facebook, Emma Lyons. Is it Emma Lyons on Facebook? I think it is. Yeah, it's the same on Facebook. And then also we will be airing on YouTube in December. And so we want to make sure that you connect with us in all those different spaces. And we love you. Have an amazing day. Bye, y'all.